This episode of the Politics program is brought to you, as always, by The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Head on over to thecontender.us and find out what the best game of 2016 is all about. I mean, you've heard me talk about this a million times on the show. We have a really fun thing starting up next week. 50 games in 50 states. The nationwide card caucus begins. If you want all the information, then you better follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/thecontendergame, or on Twitter, twitter.com/contendergame, or head on over to the website, thecontender.us, and buy a copy if you haven't already done that, or sign up for our mailing list, or all of them. Really, it's your choice. And by patreon.com/jury. That is where we are only one patron away from 400. We've had a bunch just come in. Thank you guys so much. The Jury Patreon is where you not only get to support this show, but also my One Mic show, Jury. It's the best deal on the interwebs. Thank you to everybody for making this a reality for me. And with that, let's go ahead and start the show.
And one of my favorite political ads of all time was a radio ad, rural Arkansas, where the announcer said, wouldn't it be great if somebody running for office said something, we could have an immediate reaction as to whether it was true or not? Well, we've trained this dog. And so, people were like barking at each other for days after that.
Get at me, dog.
Politics, 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 politics.
Politics. Welcome, everybody, to an episode of Politics. My name is Justin Robert Young. This is the show where we talk about politics. Normally I would go in and do a big preamble, a big rigmarole, a big, building the tip in front of the carnival tent. However, we have no time for such tomfoolery this week. Not only am I coming off a real hell of an illness, man, I've recovered just in time to do this show here for you, but this happens to be maybe the best week's worth of news that we've ever had for this show. Ever. How crazy is this week? Well, let me tell you this. Our number one story is not a Supreme Court justice dying in an election year. No. No. It is not that. Let me give you another hint. Our top story is not a front-running presidential candidate getting into a personal subtweet war with the Pope. Yeah, no. Not the Pope of Greenwich Village. The Pope. P-O-P-E. You know where my money be. I'm the Pope. That Pope. Not even our top story. We have got tensions boiling everywhere. Hillary Clinton barely clinging on to her firewall out there in Nevada. We have got less than 24 hours until people vote in South Carolina. We are about to see the final exploding star that is Jeb Bush. And we begin to see a clarifying picture on the Republican side, unless, as would be par for the course with this election, everything completely goes haywire and we now have to reset our expectations, except for the fact that for whatever reason, Donald Trump is still in the lead. Let's go ahead and get started. What is our number one story? Here's our number one story. Ted Cruz is our number one story. Ted Cruz has, how do you even put it? This man has got elbows so sharp, he's got to check them at the airport. All right? This dude is so mercenary. He is so playing it close to the line, man. Ted Cruz is the professional wrestler that puts the illegal hold on and waits until the full 5 count to break it. Now, I'm not saying he's doing anything dirty per se, but he is riding that line. He is testing that ref. To the point where Donald Trump has called him a liar, told him that he should give up his win in Iowa, and Iowa should take away his win, because not only did Ted Cruz, or a surrogate to Ted Cruz, who I met, the guy who did it, we met because we were giving out contender games to all of the headquarters, said to caucus goers that Ben Carson had dropped out of the race, and that any evangelical voters, if they want to vote for somebody who, is going to continue running for president, should vote for Ted Cruz. Now, how much that really affected the outcome, who knows? It certainly did piss off Ben Carson, who I'm almost positive is only staying in this race because he's pissed off at Ted Cruz. It also brought Donald Trump to Ben Carson's aid. And I'm sure he's thrilled that a guy who not but 3 months ago was calling him mentally incompetent and a liar is now rushing to his defense. But let's start with, this might be a weekly segment, but let's go ahead and, if you listen, can y'all hear that? Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Yeah, no. It's Ted Cruz's inner monologue. Let's go ahead and listen here.
Barely even human. Savages. Drive them from our shore. They're not like you and me.
Savagery.
We must tell them
Savagery from Ted Cruz.
Savages. Dirty freaking devils. Now we sound the drum.
What happens in This Week in Savagery by way of the Ted Cruz campaign? Again, it ain't cheating. It's just dirty pool. Let's start with this. He releases a website wherein Marco Rubio is shaking hands with Barack Obama. Let's go ahead and take a look at this picture here. The Rubio-Obama Trade Pact is what it says. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Look at this. A very, very shiny, happy, just thrilled to see him, Marco Rubio face, shaking hands with a very bemused President Obama, with the trappings of Washington, D.C. right behind him. Now, okay, a Photoshop illustration, a metaphor, one might say, to get across your point that Marco Rubio went to Washington and abandoned his Tea Party principles. Whatever, that's fine. Except for the fact that the Cruz campaign didn't so much as say that that was a Photoshop. In fact, they initially told reporters that I am confident that our campaign would not use a photo that's not authentic, insinuating that this hilariously Photoshopped picture might indeed be an actual picture of Marco Rubio and Barack Obama. So then they eventually walk it back. You got to figure, okay, hey, listen, somebody got their wires crossed. Obviously, there seems to be a little bit of a problem with communication within the Ted Cruz campaign. Now that it's very clear, people went ahead and found the actual stock photo that this was based on. Maybe they'll walk it back. They'll just say, hey, listen, now it's Photoshop, but really the point stands on its own. They didn't even say that. Here is the official Ted Cruz campaign quote. If Rubio has a better picture of him shaking hands with Barack Obama, I'm happy to swap it out, said spokesman Rick Tyler 2 days before the presidential primary in South Carolina, and they want to talk about a picture we used. Pictures? Y'all talking about pictures. Not an election, pictures. This is amazing. That is just a masterclass in some dirty ass pool, paved right over, just skating backwards off of it with a little bit of a denial. Oh, y'all want to talk about pictures? Oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, go ahead and worry about your pictures, homie. That's what they hit him back with. But that wasn't even the worst. That wasn't even the worst in This Week in Savagery with Ted Cruz. Because Ted Cruz has been going back and forth with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, at his Trumpiest, says, Ted Cruz, you're a liar. And if you keep lying, I'm going to take you to court. That's a standard Donald Trump move. He loves threatening legal action because it's the best way that he can project his own wealth against people. So in the business world, if somebody says unfavorable things about Donald Trump, he can say, I'm going to sue you. And what that really means is it doesn't matter whether or not I'm right. I've got more money than you. And so I will waste your money while this sits in court. Because you have to pay for a lawyer and I have to pay for a lawyer, except I'm probably already paying for a lawyer and you are probably not. But Ted Cruz, because that man is slick as an eel, says, whoa. Okay, you want to go to court? How about this? You file the lawsuit and I'll represent myself. He says, I would be delighted if you filed suit against me because you do not want me to put you on the stand and start to question you when you are under oath to tell the truth. Oh, my Lord. And that would have been really, really good. Except there was one more thing, and this was very, very, very late breaking. Because Cruz and Carson have this fractured relationship, last night they decided that they were going to try to make things right, or at least Cruz wanted to try to make things right. They were both at, where was it? The Conservative Review Convention, which Rubio skipped, by the way, because it was apparently a pretty heavy Cruz crowd. And he's like, yeah, you want to know what? I'm just going to go ahead and catch a couple winks. But Ted Cruz wanted to make things right with Ben Carson. Now, why does Ted Cruz want to make things right with Ben Carson? Or more specifically, why does he want you to think that he is making things right with Ben Carson? Well, because Ben Carson's not going to be in this race much longer. And if Ted Cruz wants to win, specifically in South Carolina or states like South Carolina, where he should be doing well because he's got an evangelical base, he needs all the evangelical votes he can. And the people that are still supporting Ben Carson are about as evangelical as you can get. So he needs Ben Carson's votes, which means that when Ben Carson leaves, Ted Cruz would like for Carson to endorse Cruz. Or he at least wants to get a little bit of this sleazy, sharp-ass elbows, alligator kind of veneer off him. So Ted Cruz says, hey, man, let's just go ahead to a neutral place in this facility and let's talk it out. That seems pretty reasonable, right? That seems, like a rad thing to do, like a good thing to do, something that you would applaud Ted Cruz about. Except for this, this is supposed to be a secret meeting. Except for the fact that Ted Cruz apparently leaks all the details about it before it even happens. Tells reporters where they met and what they talked about. Well, that didn't seem like something that was going to go well, right? And then there's the theory, because this little conversation of theirs took a fairly long time, that almost ran into Ben Carson's speaking time at this convention, that maybe this was just gamesmanship by Ted Cruz all the while. And then maybe this peaceful meeting of the minds was really nothing like that. It was just yet another sleazy trick by Ted Cruz. But here's the best part about it, is that the optics on this are amazing. I will read to you now from an article in the Daily Beast, and I will do so with what I believe to be appropriate accompaniment. Two grown men running for president met in a storage closet last night. The meeting, called by Ted Cruz in an attempt to mend fences with Ben Carson ahead of the South Carolina primary, was held on Thursday night before the Conservative Review Convention. The two huddled in an unusual venue for nearly 25 minutes as Carson's Secret Service detail stood outside, according to a Republican operative who witnessed the strange scene. Carson, whose campaign has spent weeks after Iowa blasting him for lying to voters in the Hawkeye state, agreed to meet Cruz for 5 minutes. According to a source close to Carson's campaign, in order to try to put to bed the issue of his dirty campaign tricks in Iowa, during which Cruz's campaign told caucus goers that Carson had dropped out of the race. This is amazing. This is just such a great... He's literally trapped in the closet. At some point, Carson's campaign staff has to come banging on they're banging on the closet. I need to get out of the closet. I need to speak at the Conservative Review. I grab my Beretta. Oh my God. Ted Cruz, just a national treasure. A national treasure. Now we're going to see in this pole dance that's coming up in a second just how close he is to Donald Trump in South Carolina and whether or not he really, really has much of a shot. But speaking of Trump, some real amazing amazing stuff out of him this week. Donald Trump has 3 big headlines to his name. None bigger than the fact that he got into a kind of verbal subtweet tete-a-tete with the Pope. The big hat, bulletproof car, Pope, that Pope, the real Pope. Apparently the Pope has these little back of the plane impromptu press conferences. So somebody raised their hands, they go, "Hey, Padre," he goes, "Sup? What do you think about Donald Trump?" And the Pope says, "Hey, listen. Anybody who wants to build a wall and keep people out is not a Christian." Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Oh, Pope, I didn't know that you got down like that. Damn, son. So Donald Trump comes back and not one to lay down for anybody. Even a man who speaks to God himself says that was a disgusting comment. Now, this is remarkable, not necessarily because the Pope clapped Donald Trump, not necessarily because Donald Trump clapped the Pope back, but rather that for the first time that I can remember in this election, Donald Trump backed off. Donald Trump said, "Hey, listen, I think the Pope's great. He's great. He's a great guy. He's a great friend. Everybody who knows him loves him." And everything kind of boils down. And that's fine. Beatmaster in the chat says, "I don't get their beef. Both love gold bling, crazy headwear, and living inside huge walls." Absolutely. So here's the other fun part about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has made a lot of hay, especially in South Carolina, where Jeb Bush has been staging what is effectively his last stand, a all-out attack on George W. Bush. Now, this is very, very curious because in South Carolina, George W. Bush is like 86% approved by registered South Carolina Republicans. So it's odd that he would go mega hard at W, and specifically about the Iraq War, along with like just a little bit of like truth or dog whistle I don't know whether or not I'm just so excited about this possibility that Donald Trump would go full truther that I'm just reading into it. But he drops in things like, if I'm elected, I'll let you know who really brought down the World Trade Center, which is just amazing. That's an amazing thing. That's like walking out and saying, I'll let you know who really killed Kennedy if I got elected. But the wizards at BuzzFeed went and found a clip. And again, how bizarre is this campaign? How bizarre is this race when the sentence I'm about to say is going to come out of my mouth? BuzzFeed found a sentence, or found a clip from the Howard Stern show on the first anniversary of 9/11, wherein Donald J. Trump, New York businessman, calls in after Ronnie the limo driver and gives his thoughts about what happened on 9/11, what the state of New York was. And Howard Stern, being the consummate interviewer that he is, says, do you think we should go to war in Iraq? To which Donald Trump says, yeah, I guess. Now, this is in stark contrast to the fact that he has been on stage lambasting George W. Bush in saying he was very against the war, very against the war. It was a gigantic mistake and it destabilized the region. Now, whether or not you agree with his position on the war, or at least his stated agreement on their position on the war, you have to understand the fact that Donald Trump has no foreign policy experience. He's done business overseas, but he doesn't really know what it's like to sit down in front of dignitaries. Or at least dignitaries when he's representing a government and can't just walk away. So, any credibility that he has to come from stated foresight. If he, despite the fact that, again, this is a puzzling thing, and again, no element of Donald Trump makes sense. Like, Donald Trump takes big positions that are contrary to the Republican base, and yet he remains at his steadfast 30%, right? If he says, I was against this war, I didn't think it was a good idea, I'd said it was a bad idea, that's my opinion. And then you have evidence saying, no, dog, you were for the war. You thought it was a good idea, you guess. Then that undermines your credibility. Unless, of course, you're Donald Trump. When asked about this, only hours after it surfaces online during a CNN town hall, Anderson Cooper asks him, hey, what about this? And Donald Trump, in an amazing Trump moment. So many great moments this week. I feel like I should be doing 3 stars, like a hockey game. Answers twofold. First, I was not a politician back then. You don't say. I don't know quite for certain what you mean by that, but maybe it's like, no. I wasn't supposed to be beholden to what I believed because I wasn't a politician then. Okay. And then he says, but I was against the war by the time it started. Let that sink in for a second. He was against the war before it started. Or by the time it started, rather. Meaning that he waited until the war had started to start saying, this is a bad idea. Therefore rendering any element of when, as president, you need to make decisions like this completely obsolete. He is great at being a backseat driver. But yet, if what he meant to do was highlight the kind of steady hand foresight that he would bring to the Oval Office for his non-existent foreign policy credentials, doesn't help so much. And it also just makes it so much better that it was from a call to the Stern show that followed Ronnie the limo driver. Just so great. So great. But let's swing across the aisle, or not the aisle, but across the pole on the Republican side from Donald to Jeb. Whose chopper is this? It's Jeb's. Who's Jeb? Jeb's dead, baby. Jeb's dead. There really isn't any other way to put it, you guys. You know, this was a pivotal week for Jeb Word. Jebby needed to have a big bounce. He had a good debate on Saturday. He really let Trump have it. He flustered Trump. Came out looking good. Jeb. Then he backed it up by bringing his, pardon the turn of phrase, Trump card out on the campaign trail with him. His brother, George W. Bush, a two-time elected president. It is rare that former presidents, especially ones that were sitting presidents not long ago, come out this early in the campaign trail, if at all. And yet there he was, W, coming out, being folksy as all get out, doing a real great job. Jeb. This was all leading up to the fact that he really wanted the governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, to endorse him. Came out and said, anybody who gets Nikki Haley's endorsement will get the most meaningful endorsement in the state. Jeb. Jeb's thinking, damn, I got this. Damn, I got this. I did well in the debates. I bloodied Trump's lip. What now? I came out with my brother. A sitting president said that I was going to be the best president. What now? Huh? Who's looking out for Jeb? Now, all I need to do is bring home Nikki Haley. What? Nikki Haley endorses Rubio. Christmas time is here. And I think that's it. Now, there's going to be many a hashtag long read that will dissect the Jeb Bush campaign. And there will be a race. You will hear a thundering gallop that will be political scribes scampering to their keyboard so they can be the ones that enter the headline, never has so much been spent on so little first. Because that is the hallmark of the Jeb Bush campaign. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm feeling a little sorry for him. You know? Still at Work says that's got to hurt. Not only did he endorse someone else, but he endorsed the other Florida guy. Not only did he endorse the other Florida guy, he endorsed who Jeb Bush considered his mentor. Who Jeb Bush went out of his way to help make him a star. For whom, when he did not like Charlie Crist as his legacy bearer, he selected Marco Rubio and made him Speaker of the House in the Florida legislature. He gave the man a sword. Do you know how much you have to think of somebody to give him a sword? A sword! There's a picture of this sword. Let me find a picture of this sword. This sword is here. Listen. Let's find this sword. Where is this sword? Here we go. Let's search. Marco Rubio Bush sword. Oh, it makes me so excited that I get to talk about swords here on the show. You don't believe me? You don't believe me? Take a look at this sword. Jeb Bush gave the man a sword. You got to think that Jeb Bush is looking at Marco Rubio and he's like, damn, man, I wanted you. He's like poor Obi-Wan. You were supposed to bring balance to the Force, not destroy it. Except in this version, Rubio's got the high ground, and it looks like Jeb Bush, that's the one who's about to be a quadriplegic flaming on the side of the road. This is an absolute devastation for Jeb Bush. He couldn't get the endorsement he wanted to, and as we're going to get into in the pole dance, he looks toast when it comes to South Carolina. Which leads us to the one big story that probably would have been our top story if this were any other week. And that is Antonin gone. Scalia dead. We just go to an email from our regular emailer, Zach the Military Black Guy, who writes, with the passing of Judge Antonin Scalia, the presidential race just got kicked up a notch. Bam! Who's doing Emerald references in 2016? The Politicsx show. That's who. My theory is that Republicans will stall any appointment until Congress goes into recess in July, paving the way for an Obama recess appointment. What are your thoughts on how the GOP can stall for that amount of time without coming off as petty and stubborn? Here are my ideas. There are none. I just don't think that this is going to be able to last so long. In fact, I think it is ultimately better if the Republicans compromise and they get a moderate justice. They let that through, and then who's ever on the Republican side can make the Supreme Court vacancies that are still left, which at this point would be probably 2. There used to be the idea that there would probably be 3 selections made in the next 4 years, to play that all the more up and say, hey, listen, we have 0 margin for error. If we don't get a president in now, this is totally screwball McGillicuddy. And that's something that I want the Republican nominee to say from the convention stage in Cleveland. We're in a real screwball McGillicuddy situation. New York Post headline. Screwball McGillicuddy needs to be avoided, says Republican nominee. But I mean, listen, this is the politics show. We focus on the presidential race. We don't really focus on what is going to happen congressionally, because that ain't really my field, and I'm not all that interested in it. But I do believe that this is kind of something that is just going to be out of the hands. You know, you can't stall for that long. And as we've seen, Obama does not care about just retreating to the comment section of the Daily Kos. Like, he is perfectly fine in saying obstructionists, and then just letting people get mad about it. I don't think that there's really going to be a lot of magnanimous stuff from Obama. I think he's going to nominate somebody for whom he suspects will get through. So it'll probably be more moderate than it would be otherwise. But I think that they're just going to have to do it. Like, it's just such a bad look. Now, here is how this would not be the case. If Jeb Bush had Donald Trump's numbers, you could hold everybody in the Senate and say, no, we're holding out on this. We're keeping everything tight. Because Jeb Bush is old guard conservative. He's got connections to probably tangentially, at the very least, if not directly, almost everybody that's elected, and would be able to work behind the scenes to make sure that everybody was getting what they needed to keep the siege going. Donald Trump has no such connections. I don't think he really cares all that much. And if he is in the lead and there is still a chaotic situation in the Republican nomination process, I don't think that on faith alone that the Senate Republicans are just going to be like, yeah, no, we're gonna keep going for a president that might be elected or might be Donald Trump. Like, do we even want to be in bed with Donald Trump if Donald Trump gets elected? Like, is that best for us? Remember, any congressperson are literally just looking out for how they get reelected. So they want to take positions that won't look bad by the time, or will look good with their constituency by the time that they go up for voting again. And I don't think that this let's hold out on it might look really good now. It's not going to be a really good look when everybody kind of loses the vitality of the argument. But speaking of vitality, we've had a lot of new listeners to this here show, and there is one segment for which sticks out above anything else. This is a great, great, great time for us to bring that forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go ahead into your bathroom. I want you to break out that baby powder after a fresh shower. I want you to, with that Johnson's baby powder and cool water cologne, fresh, dress like $1,000,000. I want you to go ahead and dial up your friends. Tell them to meet you at your place because that's where the limo's picking you up. I want you to stop at that Circle K, break that $100 bill on a hot dog, and tell them, no. We're going to need that one back all in ones. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready for the signature segment of the Politicsx show. And this time, it's going to be on 2 stages. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pole dance! Our first poll comes from Emerson, taken from February 16th to February 18th with a sample of 418 likely voters. Starting from the bottom, now we're here. Ben Carson with 6%. Tied for second to last, it is Jeb Bush and John K666 Beats. Next up, he is the man who's ready to give you 7 minutes in heaven in the closet of your choosing. Ladies and gentlemen, Ted Cruz. En español, por favor. In second place with 19%, it is Marco Rubio. And in first, with 36%, the Pope beater himself, Donald Trump. Well, let's go ahead and switch your attention on over to the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, we're breaking it down Nevada style. No stranger to the free trip to the strip club. Strip club, strip club. Y'all gonna head to the club? Free limo, free limo. This is a Gravis poll taken from the 14th to the 15th with 516 likely voters. Ooh, it's what you want to hear, baby. This has gotten tight. How tight? Tight. It is Bernie Sanders with 47% and Hillary Clinton. Oh! What y'all really want? 53%. The Real Clear Politics average in Nevada is right now 46.3 for Sanders to 48.7 for Clinton. Hachi Machi. Let's go ahead and just for a second, let's take a look. Back in February, this was Sanders with 4% and Hillary with 58. God damn. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our poll dance for this week. Of course, we also take our own poll. You can head on over to bit.ly/poll10, we ask you guys our own questions. We got a few super funny ones that you guys wrote in. This was the word of the week, the word that really summed up the week in politics for you. I'm just going to read a few of them. Exhausted, entertaining, shrieking, snafu, fascinating, Japan. Oh, Japan is an island way across the sea. Randless, burn, and more politics podcasts. Well, thank you very much. We also asked you, who would you write in? Just a non-politician that you'd like to write in. We got Antonin Scalia. Wonder if that came in before or after Saturday. Zombie Ronald Reagan, Peter Thiel, Elizabeth Warren, Tom Merritt, myself, and Elon Musk. And then I guess we threw in something of who you think I will vote for. Ron Paul, Brian Brushwood, Antonin Scalia, Adolf Stalin, my cockatiel, Dr. Bird, Hillary Clinton, Rubio, Pol Pot, Bloomberg, I have no idea, the Blue M&M, and Tom Merritt yet again. Thank you guys so much. And again, if you would like to fill out this week's poll, it is bit.ly/poll10. bit.ly/politics10. You can also write the show, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to your email program of your choice and type in justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Make sure you put politics in the subject line. We begin with Alec. He wanted to write in about Clinton's support shaming Bernie ladies. I fully understand that for these older women who have fought for women's issues for decades, the prospect of a female president is a huge deal. Their support for Clinton is completely sensible. But the form it's taken lately has done nothing to alleviate a much broader problem for women in politics. They still aren't taken as seriously as their male counterparts. As much as my female friends have affirmed to me, there is a much higher burden on women to justify their choices and opinions, especially when it comes to voting. Never mind the fact that rational, policy-minded choices in national elections are both pointless and rare for anyone regardless of gender. And God damn it, this is America with a private ballot, which means anyone can vote for whomever they want, for whatever reasons they want, and they aren't beholden to anyone for their explanation. Now, this is, of course, coming after Gloria Steinem and Madeleine Albright made comments individually. Albright said that there's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women, and Gloria Steinem said that females who support Bernie are there because they're boy crazy. And that's where all the boys are. That's why young ladies who are just crazy for boys want to run on over to feel the burn in their heart. For boys, that is. Now, I appreciate where Alec's coming from, although I don't quite know if a dude coming in and running into the young women's defenses is necessarily the best look in the world. I appreciate you writing it in, though. But this is just one of those issues for me where it's like, these are conversations that come up when stuff's not going right. Hillary Clinton is right now in a situation where if she loses Nevada, or if she wins Nevada mega tight, that's a problem. Because that's a state she should win. Now, she's going to win South Carolina. There's a virtual lock on that. But Bernie doing well in Nevada at least gives the first indication that evidence-wise he can do better in states he's currently doing poorly in. And that big statement states like Iowa or New Hampshire, where the electorate very often wants to make a statement as much as they want to make the choice for the next president, is not necessarily the only reason why he did so well in both of those states. Nevada is super, 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 super interesting. There's also the fact that, you always hear the Hillary Clinton machine is a creaky boat. It is one that rocks and sways with the tide and very often doesn't do it gently. Now, there's a lot of squeals, there's a lot of leaks, there's a lot of gnashing of teeth. So if you happen to see a lot of people get fired after she loses Nevada, I would not be surprised. That's the kind of stuff that's already been rumored. Now, what does that look like to the electorate? What does that look like to Bernie supporters who are trying to proselytize their friends? And more specifically, when you're looking at the demographics of this race, is Hillary losing minorities? Because she's already been eaten into with young women who she's going to need in the general. But if she starts losing ground with minorities, it's like P problems, like big P, capital P, Master P. Make them say, nah. Mark, an evangelical voter. We love the evangelical voters writing in, man. Like, there's no, again, this is why I asked you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, because there is no other podcast on the planet that's going to give you a DMX in joke at the top and then an evangelical voter email at the end. It's just us. One-man party. Mark writes in. He asked for an evangelical perspective at one point. I'm an evangelical, and I just finished my Master's of Engineering at Georgia Tech. I have many friends that are similarly evangelical and educated, and many of us are willing to be entirely single-issue voters related to abortion. Usually, single-issue voters has a negative stigma, but it starts to make sense if you accept the premise that life starts at conception. We would never vote for a candidate who wants to make killing humans legal, whatever his or her other credentials are. That being said, I feel very jaded by the lack of progress on this issue when Republicans have been in office, so I'm considering voting Democrat based on a biblical concern for the poor and the oppressed. Side note, British Christians say 2 Corinthians rather than 2 Corinthians, so to me, the media getting upset just showed a lack of culture. That being said, I would for almost anyone in the world over Trump. Well, the 2 Corinthians thing wasn't the media. I mean, it was the media that blew it up, but it was people at Liberty University that were making fun of him. I mean, a lot of that came off like people in the Yik Yak and on Twitter, students from Liberty making fun of him for that. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's how I've always understood single issue abortion voters or pro-life voters is that, you know, if you believe that that murder was happening every day, would you vote to end it? I can get that. You know, it's a matter of opinion. I disagree with you. I don't think it's murder, but that's fine. I can understand where you might. Nick wrote in. He's an actual security expert. Which, by the way, I would love to hear him write in about Trump's perspective on the Apple FBI tiff. Nick wrote, as a forensic security guy, the fact that Hillary's emails being underplayed is a tragedy. From an outsider's point of view, I can understand the assumption of, quote, well, she's not a sysadmin or a tech enthusiast, so how would she know better than having her own server and its security? My response is, if she's going to be the leader of the country, it's her responsibility to have proper people in place to ensure that things are done appropriately. It is unacceptable to just act like it's no big deal and sweep it under the rug. I'm sure this is longer than your usual emails. I cut a bunch of the email. I'm sorry. We just had to get to this Hillary thing. And I apologize that I feel like you're the only one I can reach out to that will understand my point of this educated, meaningful response. Please feel free to share this on Politicsx. And I just did. Nick, as a security expert, I want you to write in about Trump's position on the Apple versus FBI tiff. If you're not up on this, the FBI asked Apple to create a backdoor. Well, they don't call it a backdoor. To create a firmware where they can get in to the cell phone of one of the San Bernardino shooters. Apple has taken this public and said, no, we're going to refuse. In fact, it's a matter of principle. We'll be happy to go to court over it. Donald Trump, just minutes before we started recording, doubled down on his initial response of who does Apple think they are by saying he is boycotting Apple products until Apple backdoors that phone, which I'm very excited to see how long that lasts. And finally, Matthew wrote in about St. Bernard. It seems to me that Democrats put Bernie Sanders up against Hillary for the purpose of giving her airtime so as to steal some of the Republicans' thunder in this election cycle and get her face out there to fire up her followers. I mean, Bernie doesn't attack Hillary on anything. He's just a big pussycat that is simply there to serve up change up so she can hit him out of the park and look good in front of the masses who would have nothing to cheer if Hillary was unopposed. Now, Matthew, if you were a listener to this podcast about a month and a half ago, I would have agreed with you. I came after Bernie Sanders supporters, and I said, listen, how long is he just going to be there to shoo-op and back-up sing for Hillary before y'all, the political revolution, get a little upset about it? But I'll have to say, 2015 and 2016 have been totally different years for Bernie. I think he's taken it to Hillary quite a bit. But Matthew makes a very, very good point. This is about as set up a primary process as I think there might have ever been for a non-sitting president on the Democratic side. Most of the major players cleared out. Elizabeth Warren didn't run. Joe Biden didn't run. All you had was O'Malley, who was a long shot, but really benefited by just having his name out there, and Bernie Sanders, a man who's not even a part of the Democratic Party. He's an independent and a fossil in the Senate. And yet, we're at this point now where it's like, oh, is she going to win Nevada? What I'm trying to get at is these mean more when Hillary has had the advantage that she's had. These losses mean more. These struggles mean more. These stress fractures mean more. The damage she is taking matters more because she was not expecting to take it. She didn't want to risk another Obama. So she did the most that you can possibly do to rack up endorsements. She's got an insane amount of endorsements right now. According to 538, the most that any Democratic candidate has ever had at this early phase of the game. And yet, if you're Hillary Clinton, you know, it might be time to start, you know, getting a little, barf, barf, get at me, dog.
Politics, 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 politics.
And that about wraps it up for the Politics show. You can email me, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Buy The Contender at thecontender.us. Music provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. Remember, rate, review, and subscribe this wherever you find it. Like this if you're watching on Facebook. Till next time, my name's Justin Young. Some shows talk about politics. Others talk about politics. But this is the only show that talks about politics. We'll see y'all later.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.